Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Michael Hall. Title of tonight's episode is The Giant Test. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. And we thought we'd bring in the big man himself, Mr. Lights Out, fast as lightning wide receiver, deep threat, Mr. Anthony Armstrong. Thank you for joining us, brother. How are you doing?
Man, I'm good. Doing good, man. It's a great time to be a Commanders fan. It's a great time to be following the team. I mean, people, every time you go around somewhere, you can just smile a little bit more. You know what I mean? I saw a guy yesterday. I saw he had a Bears blanket. I said, "You okay from Sunday?" He said, "I don't even want to talk about it, man." I said, "I ain't even gonna rub it in either. So we're gonna keep this thing rolling." But now everything is good on this side, man. Beautiful weather. Doing this one out from the backyard today.
Yes, and look, we're not going to dive too deep into what happened on Sunday night and the miracle that was at Washington. And there was a spokesperson that came down from a fellow company that came down. I was commissioning a job with him today. He didn't see the play, and I was like, "What? You don't know?" He was like, "No, what happened?"
Is he living under a rock? What?
He's older, like he doesn't really, but like he was blown away. He was like, "Oh my goodness!" But
Man.
Anthony, I saw that on your Twitter today. You posted that video that you actually had a deep ball touchdown, and almost that's just a magical spot, isn't it?
It is a magical spot.
Mhm.
When I saw it, I was like, that looked very familiar. It's just a slightly different name in the end zone, but I was scrolling through my phone and it was just like old, videos and pictures and stuff, and then came across that one and I was like, damn, that's the exact same spot. So that was pretty cool to see. To have that moment. Yeah, I guess you can say they're associated, but I'm not trying to take anything from Noah Brown and what's going on with this squad. I'll tell you that. I'm not that type of guy, but it was cool to see that spot is pretty special. If you need something to happen, just throw it up in the front porch of that end zone. Good things come down with the ball, man.
My man. And what was your reaction? Because I think I saw on Twitter that you were in your neighborhood running around.
Dog, I was in the house, right? So I'm every like you saw the clip of like Bram and Fletch up there in the booth and everybody was arms crossed. And like that's how I was. Cause when the Bears scored, I was like, man, damn. I said, we got 15 seconds though. I mean, you got Jaden. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you got Jaden Daniels. And when you have him, he's built that reputation enough to where you like, I got belief. Like, why not?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like you got a guy that just has to be you got Jaden. And sitting back and he started rolling around. Well, they made that play that Eberflus has downplaying, where that's just bad situational football. But I'll take them 10 yards to Terry because that set up the Hail Mary. But when I was watching, man, I'm sitting there arms crossed and they threw it. And then once that ball got tipped, you just saw Noah drift back. I was like, that's it. And he caught it, and I'm screaming. My kids are screaming. Like they would do a bad time, so I'm screaming. They come out screaming. What are you screaming at? I'm like, "Dog, they just a crazy play. So I had to go take off down the street because I needed to run around somewhere. But man, it was hype. That was the most exciting thing you could have imagined happening,
Right.
and it's something that's so rare. Like you rarely see those things go down, and to see it happen and to be on our side for once is good.
Absolutely, yeah. Like it's funny because usually I probably would have turned that off with the 2 seconds left, but like you said, there was just something gluing you to the TV, and I'm sure it was just the way that Jaden Daniels is in this offense, and them only being down by a field goal, you still feel like the football team has a chance, and my goodness, did they come through. But Anthony,
I thought they were just gonna try a field goal or something, but
right?
throw it up there.
I imagine if he would have hit it a 70, 80 yarder, that'd be insane. Let's talk about this game this weekend because Washington lost Cornelius Lucas, who did not practice today. I believe he had an ankle injury. Trent Scott finished that game, but Brandon Coleman was out on Sunday with a concussion. He seems to be better now heading into this week. But this Giants defense, I mean, they are first in the league in sacks per game with almost 4.5 sacks per game. Dexter Lawrence, I thought this was a typo, has 9 sacks on the year as a defensive tackle, which is just unreal. It's alien-like.
Pretty sure
So
is leading the NFL.
So my question to you, Anthony, is: are you confident with the O line that we do have, and with Brandon Coleman starting out there outside? Because Brian Burns is no slouch; he's got 5 sacks this year as well. So, are you? How confident are you with the O line heading into this matchup?
I think I got the same level of confidence that you had coming into the season, right? The good thing is that Cliff Kingsbury, the way that they go no huddle, the play calling, everything is set up to just make you get past, the deficiencies on the offensive line. They haven't been an issue all year. There've been a couple sacks in a few games here or there, but nothing too catastrophic. Nothing where like it was last year, where it just was totally killing any type of momentum that you've had. Now, what I didn't like was when Lucas went out and then there was no Coleman and then Scott was in there. It seemed like they abandoned the run. They weren't able to get as much push with the running game. Now, is that correlated between the two players? Maybe so. Um, I'm interested to see if that running game is going to be able to make its way back because that was a big that carried a lot of weight in the first game. All right,
Mm.
it carried a lot of weight in this first game in week 2, and Dan Quinn said, "Hey, you keep some things in your back pocket for those second matchups." I don't know, is it going to be a, hey, we're going to throw it for 50 times this game? Like, I don't think that's the vibe that you really want to go to, especially with the pass rush like the Giants have. So it's interesting. I'm feel fine with it because, like I said, play calling's been good. Cliff's been good. Jaden gets the ball out of his hands quickly. It should help you get past any missing offensive linemen.
No, I agree with that. Early throughout this week and kind of after this game, with the Bears this past Sunday, the local media has been talking about the red zone struggles for this team. Is obviously week 2. They kicked the 7 field goals against the Giants, ironically, and this past weekend, the mishaps in the red zone, penalties, was not drop passes, ended up only getting some field goals out of it. Do you think that that's something that is going to be one of those things that pops up every couple weeks for this team, or do you think that this is something that is just 1 or 2 games out of a, what are we, 8 games in sample right now, and that's just things that this coaching staff will correct and they'll tighten those things up?
It's a couple parts to it. I'm wondering if some of the play calls that happened in the red zone this past game would have been different if you weren't trying to protect Jaden. Right now, obviously they played him. Now, you would think there would have been a couple more
It's
read
a great
options in there,
point,
maybe.
Anthony.
So now you're like, okay, scrap the runs that would have gotten us into more favorable positions. Now we have to pass it. So I'm that's what I'm leaning on. But coming into this game, I had tweeted, I'm like, look, I don't like the fact that you didn't have success against New York in week 2. You're showing it again in this past game against Chicago, and now you have to face New York again.
Mm.
Do they have a secret sauce that's going to make this another struggle? Are you able to, capitalize and come up with new plays and find ways to get into the red zone or get into the end zone when you're in the red zone? Because teams are going to play that bend but don't break, right? Don't give up the big play, or if we do, hey, tackle them short. Like I don't want that to be a weak point of this offense. So I'm paying attention to it. It's going to take a lot of tightening up and a lot of cleaning up, and it's something that you don't want to continue to show up from time to time. We're halfway through the season. The best teams start playing their better football a little bit later on in the year, but they got to get the red zone stuff fixed this week, so it doesn't show back up.
You're absolutely right. And right now, the Giants' defense are 27th in rushing yards allowed and 8th in passing yards allowed. With that being said, with what the wide receiver drops this past Sunday, I saw people saying that we should be looking at wide receiver 2 to trade for at the trade deadline and stuff like that. But you, as a former NFL wide receiver, Anthony, is there sometimes just those games where the ball just bounces off you? It's just you can't really explain it, but obviously, like Noah Brown had a couple, but then that he caught the most important one at the end, so you can't beat him up too bad. What are like is that a normal thing for a wide receiver?
I mean, there are going to be those days. Another thing that I was considering was the accuracy was a little bit off for Jaden. So was he nursing something? And obviously he's healthy enough to play, and he could threw that thing 70 yards for a Hail Mary. So let's not say he's not having arm strength, but
Right.
could there be just a little bit of lack of accuracy that where the balls are a little bit lower and behind you, where they are more awkward to catch? I don't think that's not who these guys are. They haven't shown it all year. And sometimes some games are gonna challenge you. Life's gonna challenge you in certain ways. You got to see how you can overcome it. And this is a team that continues to answer whatever challenge shows up to them. So I'm not tripping on the drops. They'll be fine. They'll get them fixed.
Right. Um, Going back to like the penalties, the called back touchdowns, the missed, the drops in the end zone, whatever it may be. They kind of pretty much they should have been smoking the Bears in the first half. We all kind of saw that they were pretty much moving the ball up and down the field on them. Defense was getting after Caleb Williams, and they kind of let him hang in the game. And kudos to this team because they ended up making the play at the end and making the plays at the end of the game to get the dub. But for a team like New York, who they only have like 2 wins on the season, they have Daniel Jones as their quarterback. It seems like everyone's in the locker rooms kind of like looking at like, all right, this season's kind of like lost. Like, let's just kind of move to 2025. Do you think it's going to be important to come out early in this game and kind of just show the Giants like there's no hope for you guys this week, and kind of like not let them hang around like the Bears did, because obviously an emotional win, everyone's kind of still riding off the wave of that. You can kind of come out flat against a team that is in your division.
That is 100% the truth, Mike. I am with you. That's why I was tweeting like not even about 4 hours after the game. I was like, hold on a second, guys. All right, don't ride high on this last win and just take those emotions and take some other things for granted, right? All the things that you mentioned that would generally get you beat. You know what I mean? Like missing opportunities like that, letting the team stick around.
Yep.
They need to treat this Giants game very similarly to the Carolina game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would love to see some early turnovers and pick sixes and just get the momentum going on your side quickly. Take the pain away, right? What do they do? They give them and they go. Shh, 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 shh. That's how it should be. To close their eyes real cool, and then just make this thing be nice and easy Sunday, right? That's how it should be. I don't need any drama. I know the script writers may have some things in mind. Daniel Jones loves to ball out against Washington. My homeboy said that Daniel Jones had such good games against Washington. He was at Howard's homecoming. Okay, so in that instance, you don't need to let Daniel Jones have a good game. Let's see Drew Lock get in the game. You know what I'm saying? And my challenge to the defense is this: Daniel Jones has not thrown a touchdown at home. How do you keep that streak going? He's thrown 4 interceptions at home. How do you keep that streak going? That's what you're coming in. It's more than just beat this team. You need to obliterate them. You really need to come out here and show your force, show who you are, show who you really are, and what you want to be moving forward in this season.
Yeah, and I think it's very similar to how the Eagles played New York, where they were able to get up on them by a couple touchdowns. Because the Giants' offense, they're 30th in sacks allowed. They give up over 3 sacks a game on average, and then obviously they're first in sacks on defense. So which kind of tells you to your both of your point where you got to get up early in order to force them into those passing situations. You can't allow them to hang around and be able to use that so you could get after Daniel Jones and company for the rest of the game. That kind of helps your chances out immensely. But Anthony, tomorrow or in this week is Halloween. A lot of things going on. So what? Give me some Halloween costume ideas. What are you doing?
Man, well, we're going as a family, family costume, as Mario Brothers characters. So I got the boys are going to be Mario, Luigi, and Toad. The
Good
wife is
choice.
going to be Princess Peach. Little baby girl, I think she's going to be a pumpkin. Or maybe we'll just put her in another dress and she can be another character. But have been cast as Bowser. I am the villain. As the dad is always the villain. That's so. If you are a new dad out there, just be ready, man. Just be ready to get
You hear
jumped
that,
on,
Mike?
kicked.
Yeah.
All right, you got to get jumped on, kicked,
No,
body
trust me, I know.
slammed. If you watch wrestling, then that just study that because that's what it's like when you have kids and you're always the villain. So that's what we're rocking with, man. That's what we're rocking with. I'm looking forward to it. It should be pretty fun.
That was me on Sunday night after my wife was trying to put the kids down for bed, and all of a sudden I started screaming out of nowhere at the end of that game. I came in the room and looked like Bowser coming in there to my wife. Sorry, Hall.
No, oh, so the defense, so a lot of been the defense has been playing better, obviously, the past couple weeks. Do you think that the defense has kind of turned a corner where it's kind of like it just took a couple weeks for Joe Witt to kind of get the pieces in place, figure out who does what best, who kind of mix and matches the best personnel wise, and they've kind of turned the corner, or do you think
Yeah.
that it's just been of the offenses that they've faced, like Deshaun Watson at quarterback, Andy Dalton and the Panthers, or like I said, do you think that they've turned a corner and they've kind of figured things out for the most part?
I think they're really mm, growing into what they were meant to be, right? A fast, physical, violent team. Those first couple weeks of the year, people are trying to feel each other out, right? Team are trying to feel each other out, and then for whatever
Absolutely.
something happened. There's probably some sort of like behind the scenes meeting that happened, and everybody just kind of came together. Because I think what was it, week 3, right? We're just like things started opening up, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, okay, hold on. I mean, I have to mention, I was talking with Lake about it, Lake Lewis about it. You don't cheer for injuries. It sucks that John Allen is out, but it has helped you put Johnny Newton in the game. You see how disruptive the dude is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the success that he has across the front is going to help the secondary look better, right? You don't have to bitch and moan about, sorry, but y'all, you don't have to complain about the corners and everything because they're gonna come up on some interceptions just based on the amount of pressure that Johnny Newton's able to get, just like that. Like you think Dexter Lawrence is disruptive. Johnny Newton has that same type of skill set. I mean, go look back at the tape in Illinois. The guy's always around the football, and you saw Brian Baldinger breaking it down. So once you get people that believe in what they're doing, I mean, you heard how Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs were talking about Dan Quinn. They got hyped
Yeah.
talking about Dan Quinn on their podcast. They were like, "Man, I'm ready to run through a wall for him." Like he's got the defense that they understand what they're meant to do. He teaches them to say, "Hey, look, your job is to get from this gap, and you have that gap, and if you beat him, and that's it. These guys can play fast, they can play confident. And once you start getting a couple interceptions on that back end, it's gonna be a real dangerous defense. They can probably rise up a few more points in the overall defensive rankings.
I definitely think the move of Mikey Samerstill to outside definitely helped with this whole situation on defense as well, Anthony. And credit to Newton. The NFL, I think Jaden Daniels said the NFL granted him the sack on that play, by the way, which
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
should have been. I don't know why it would have been considered not one. Sorry, Hall.
Now, you mentioned something. So a couple of the players from like last year that were the holdovers that they didn't like get rid of or whatever, they actually get some playing time.
The survivors.
Yeah, the survivors,
There you
literally.
go.
They were talking about how last year was like kind of more complicated and it took a while to figure things out and whatnot. And you just mentioned how it just seems like like everything is more simple now. It's really, hey, you got that gap, that guy's going to worry about that gap. You fly to that guy and cover that man. He's going to play this zone or wherever it may be. How important that is that as a former player, where the coaches just make everything just so simple for you that you can just step on the field and just be like, just like you said, fast and free.
It helps having
Man,
Bobby Wagner too. I will add that.
That's it. Yeah.
it definitely doesn't hurt having Wagner. I mean, Wagner's gonna get you lined up right, but
Yeah.
when you know you can just go play fast and do what you do best, it takes away all worries, right? They probably say, "Hey, mistakes are gonna happen. Don't worry about it." And when you have that removed from you, you can play freely, right? I was talking about it on one of my previous episodes. Just and we went to the walkthrough, and everybody was on their stuff, but everybody was loose. They were smiling. People were just, they were playing some game, but they were all tuned in on what was supposed to happen. I've been on teams where the walkthrough the Saturday before the game is intense, and you're like, dog, it shouldn't be this intense. Like we should be able to relax a little bit. Sometimes coaches get in there, they want to show their knowledge about this is the drop and this is the angle, and sometimes it's like, man, let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. So, going way back to training camp, Dan Quinn mentioned learning the learners, learning how people learn the best, explaining it to them that way. So he's gonna take the guy who needs to be on the film. He'll say, "Come to me in my office and let's watch it on tape." The guy that needs to be on the whiteboard, he's gonna put him on the whiteboard. The guy that learns it on the field, he's gonna meet him on the field. So having a coach and having a leader that reaches out to you that way, regardless of industry, but especially here in football, you're going to be more receptive to working hard for them. You know what I mean? Instead of them trying to bang your head to the ground and make you, do a square peg round hole type thing. Dan Quinn doesn't do that. He finds a way to make you the most successful, and you just got to trust him and then go out there and play fast and violent.
What you just said really makes it clicks in my head, Anthony. I would almost equate it to like having a big exam. Let's say you have a big exam on Sunday, and through Monday through Friday you study your butt off. You get everything ramped up. You're good to go for it. You're feeling really confident about studying for that exam. On Saturday, It's much more so I'm ready for this on Sunday. I'm ready for it to get going. Whereas if you wouldn't have studied throughout the week, that Saturday you're probably stressed as all hell. You're really worried about how it's going to go, and that's going to be kind of a difference where on that Saturday you probably feel more relaxed. You feel confident with the way you prepared, and I think that's what everyone, each one of these guys on the team and the coaching staff is saying. The preparation that they're putting in, the work they put into the week has really helped them be able to be ready for these football games and contend in there. So that really clicks, Anthony. Thank you for explaining that. But allow you to get out of here. We got only a couple more questions for you. Unsung hero that will play versus the Giants.
Ooh, unsung hero, man. Ooh, we. Mm-mm-mm-mm. I'm gonna go to the receiver room. Um, I keep banging on the table for De'Ami Brown to get some action. Him or Luke McCaffrey, just coming up making a play. They may have found a wrinkle for him. I love De'Ami on those little tunnel screens. He seems to only get one a game.
Mm,
Unfortunately, the one he had this last game, I think it was a holding penalty or something. They brought it back, so
yeah.
I could see him just catching one of those, and if they give it to him a little bit further out maybe he can house one, right? Maybe he finds himself to the end zone in this game in the red zone, something like that. So I'm looking for De'Ami to show up.
And the last time him and Jaden Daniels played on that field, they had a really big gain up the sideline on that go route. So hopefully that gets replicated this weekend. Fantastic answer. Next one I have for you, last one I have for you. What is your prediction for the game, Anthony?
Oh man, this is one of those ones where I got to lean on a heavier, a blowout score. Just an
Okay.
overall blowout. Um, because once again, the challenge is don't let Daniel Jones break his streak of scoreless home games. Like don't let him come out here and just get on the right track. So for me, give me give me like a 28-6 or something like that, maybe even more points, but it needs to be a dominated performance. I don't need any excitement out of this game.
My man, I think everyone agrees with you there, especially after the way Sunday night ended. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us, brother, being able to give us a lot of your time. Before you get out of here, we'd like to plug your show and your social media handle, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate the opportunity at Rated Armstrong everywhere. Check that out. I've been putting clips on the TikTok and everything like that, so you can find some of the Believe in Commanders stuff over there. Streams on all your favorite streaming platforms, and it's at Believe Commanders on X, on Twitter, and on TikTok as well. So y'all tune into it.
My man, have a happy
My
Halloween,
man.
Anthony. Enjoy
Appreciate it,
it.
man.
Be safe and make sure you get your good tax of candy from those bags, brother.
Man, I've been so patient to not eat the Halloween candy that we've had in the house for 2 weeks. So
Not me.
hey, see, you ain't gonna have nothing. They gonna look at you. What happened to all the candy? You go, I don't
Hey,
know.
more is
Yeah,
coming. It'll be all right.
It's in the trash, is what it is. All right, Anthony, have a great one, brother.
y'all be
Appreciate it.
good.
All right, everybody, we just spoke with the man, Mr. Anthony Armstrong. Always appreciate his thoughts.
Yes,
Biggest takeaway?
sir.
Anything? I think the Diami Brown prediction was pretty good.
It's funny because I was gonna say I like the Luke McCaffrey prediction because I'm gonna keep going to the Luke McCaffrey big game well until it happens. So it's got to happen once. 17 weeks, 18 weeks, whatever it is, it's got to happen once.
Yeah, and I definitely did think about my prediction for last week after I said it was going to be a big Luke McCaffrey game. And that one touchdown where
I
Jaden
know.
just gets pressured enough just for that other foot not to drop, and that would have obviously been a huge
I
difference.
was surprised he even caught that. I thought it was gonna be a throwaway. I was like, damn.
That was a beautiful catch. I didn't even know. Honestly, at first glance, I didn't think he got his foot down, one foot, let alone up. But it was so freaking close, man. He was almost there. That was
Yeah.
beautiful, brother. What are your keys for this game? Like, what do you like? Some must-haves. Let's say that.
Um, I'll say go back to this week 2 when they faced them at home, and this past week against the Bears at home. Got to be more efficient when you get down to the red zone. When you're in scoring range, you got to get 6 on the board. I know this Giants offense, obviously, they can run the ball pretty well with Tracy. I don't know if he's going to play because of the concussion protocol, but Singletary's no slouch, and obviously Malik Neighbors is a ascending rookie wide receiver in this league. Is going to be a problem for many, 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 many years to come. But and they're gonna move the ball because Neighbors is good and whatnot. But I just think that like Anthony said, like we were talking about, you got to get points on him early. No field goals. Don't keep him in the game. Go down there on offense and put up 6-14 or 7-14, 21 points early on them and get touchdowns when you have the chance to be in the scoring range instead of just field goals.
My man, I definitely think this game, one of the keys for me is winning in the trenches, especially for this one. Having to go against Dexter Lawrence, going against Brian Burns, Ujulari. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence has 9 sacks, Ojulari has 6, and Brian Burns has 5. And so this is going to be a big task for Brandon Coleman, Andrew Wiley, and the entire offensive line, where they're going to have to be physical up front. They're going to have to do their jobs to be able to nullify that rush and be able to run the football sustainably. Like I talked about, they're 27th in rushing yards, the Giants defense. Where Washington right now, they're third in rushing yards per game, averaging over 165. And in that first matchup against the Giants, you remember that Brian Robinson run that we witnessed when we were at that game where it looks like he's bottled up, he's able to escape out of it and rush upfield. You need those kinds of rushing attempts in this game. Obviously, the Giants are not the best in the world, but they're 8th in passing yards. So being able to run the ball effectively and consistently is going to be able to help nullify that pass rush. You got to continue to keep them guessing. And obviously, the up-tempo offense is going to be monumental in that breadth. And so I think our guys are ready for it. It's going to be a bar fight. This is going to be bare knuckle boxing match, so to speak. But also our defensive line on their guys, because we have to nullify their running game. And like we had talked about earlier, I think it's gonna be huge for this one. Like if I would say an unsung hero for this, it's probably a cop out answer. But I think this is like the Dorrance Armstrong game, where he's able to get back into that rhythm of getting into those sacks. Because right now, Dorrance Armstrong has 3 sacks, and when he missed one game, and so Dante Fowler's leading us. And I think that the Giants have their like backup left tackle in right now, and so they're kind of banged up on the offensive line. It's one of their weak spots. We have to be able to dominate the trenches, be out physical them, and be able to put them on their butt so we can actually control this football game. It's my personal opinion.
No, that makes sense.
My man. Now let's get into some fan questions before we get into our predictions for this game, brother. This one was submitted by the Colonel. Just a few weeks ago, we were speculating whether we would have a 500 season. Now the sky's the limit. Am I crazy to think that we can realistically contend for the NFC Championship?
I would like to say that they are. I look, they're definitely like a top. I got Lions.
The Packers, Vikings.
I'd probably say they're like a top 3 to 4 team in the NFC right now. Like obviously the Lions are the big dogs in the NFC right now. They're just crushing teams, like literally crushing teams. And then you got teams like, where I want to say like, I mean, Philly's starting to come around. Like maybe they're starting to hit their stride. We'll see what happens with them because they've been up and down all season. And then with the 49ers, if they can get Christian McCaffrey back and he's healthy enough, obviously Debo and guys like that. My guy Ayuk's out for the year, but you still got Debo, Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey on that offense with Kyle Shanahan drawing up plays. They're going to be lethal. So I would say that, but like those teams, and then there's like us with like the Vikings, maybe like the Packers, like you talked about. So I'd say like we're just under that first tier of like the dominant teams of the NFC. But you could also kind of say that outside of the Lions, you could probably throw us, Philly, Green Bay, those type of teams all into a basket, and then we'll see which cream rises to the top throughout the next couple of weeks. But NFC Championship game, like honestly, we get to the playoffs. You got JD5 back there, and if the defense can make enough plays, it's all about who's playing the best at the end of the season, who gets hot. And I would say that we're a team when we get to the playoffs, we're going to be a team that other teams are not going to want to play because of our offense, because of Jaden Daniels, what he brings to the table. So I could like, I guess it's going to depend on what seed they would get as well. Because if you get a wild card, you got to win 3 games to get to the NFC Championship, or 2, 3 games, whatever it is. If you get the second seed, maybe even the first seed, who knows? Then you get that bye week. Obviously, you got to win less games, but it's a long-winded way to say I think we can get into the playoffs and win a game, and then if you win a game, anything's possible from there. NFC Championship, I feel like is like next year's aspirations, but if we can get there this year, that would be wild.
You are crazy, Colonel, because you're falling into the trap, and you can't fall into the trap.
It's a week-to-week
We
league.
have to look back to where we were in August and what our expectations were in August. It was 6 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, right? Like you had just said, a couple weeks ago we were looking saying, could we be 500? Can we get to 500? Just imagine what we have right now. It's amazing to witness what we are watching. And so what you don't need advice, but my whole point of saying all of this is enjoy it, because we were there when Alex Smith went down and Washington was 6-3 and everything fell apart. Let's enjoy it week by week. Do
Yeah.
not start looking ahead. And if it does get to that point, we're because of right now, Colonel, we're playing with house money. We are so in the positive. We're like Matt Damon and Rounders leaving the Mad Russian's house. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are chilling. We are good. Let's just enjoy this moment and let's enjoy where we are. And when we get to that point, then we can really say, wow, I can't believe we're here. I can't believe they did it. They pulled off something awesome. But that goes into just understanding that it's a week by week league. Anything can happen, and just enjoying the now. Enjoy the now. The more that we look ahead, the less we're able to enjoy the now. And so that's just my personal opinion. Look, is it possible? Of course it is. Just like I said in the offseason, the preseason, it's not impossible that they can be a playoff team. Not going to rule it out that they could catch fire and catch the league on fire and somehow find a way in, just like in 2012 season, which ended up happening. So no, you're not entirely crazy, but you are slightly falling into the trap of looking ahead when we just need to embrace right now, because we would love to be able to win every single game. We can't guarantee that. This is the NFL. It's every week. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. And so you got to go in with that work and that preparation. And I know that the team is doing that, but as fans, I don't want us building up those expectations. And then if they lose a game like to the Ravens, it's, not the NFC Championship. They're not that good. Like, no, let's just think back to where we were and what they're able to do right now. It's amazing what they've done as a group, as a team. And so let's enjoy that.
I will say, when you're a good team, because clearly this is like not just like some fluky, like, oh, this is just getting lucky here and there. Like, they're catching teams like 2020, like where they're just catching teams like they're down this player, or they're catching them on this day of the week, or they just person's out because of COVID, whatever it may be. They're a legit like good team. So I feel like if you think they're a legit good team, you should have high expectations for a legit good team. You know what I'm saying? So if you think that they can get to the NFC Championship game and you think that's like their ceiling or whatever it may be, then I don't blame you, because when you're looking, like I said, when you look around the rest of the NFC, and again, I'm not trying to look, I don't like look ahead either. You know what I'm saying? I like to take it week by week, but, or at least like a three week to week sample. But I would say, like I said, you look around the NFC outside of Detroit, no one's playing like legit dominant type football on both sides of the ball or like all around. So it's not like out of like you said, it's not crazy to think that like they could catch fire, even more fire, and make a run in the playoffs. But like you said, I like to just temper the expectations, worry about the Giants, and then worry about Pittsburgh, and then worry about I
Right.
don't even know who's after Pittsburgh, but yeah,
You're absolutely right. And to your credit, and I will give a shout out to Jason Garrett, because he said like those type of things happen to like a team of destiny.
yeah,
And that's what one of my thoughts was when the Nationals were heading into the playoffs that year they won the World Series. They were able to pull out these games later on in the game, and they were somehow being able to fight in it didn't matter how much they were down in a game. You always felt like they were going to come back at some point and do it, and that's what they ended up doing. To Jason Garrett's point about the team of destiny point, and so like that Hail Mary is a certain way to say, like, that building that confidence that it doesn't matter what the situation is, like Anthony talked about earlier. You have a feeling they can win it. They have a chance to, and that's a lot goes into that with Jaden Daniels and the team. But all I'm saying is, let's just enjoy the wave, man. I
no,
like so many times we thought about 2012, like, man, I wish I could relive that again. We're in that right now, and it's even better. It's even
yeah,
better. And the Colonel made a point earlier in the week saying, like, you probably don't understand this, Kyle, but like, ask your dad about it. But like, this is how we felt in like the '91 season. This is what it feels like. And like, I'm like, no, I do wholeheartedly get it, because I've never experienced anything like this. It's awesome. And
yeah. No, I
so,
mean,
and that's just me trying to contain my excitement, because as much as I would love to be able to get on the board and say that, and I just don't want, I just don't want to overlook things for what they are. And right now it's special.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, the 40 plus crowd is always like, I'm glad you guys are getting to experience this, but like they're like, this is how it was, like legitly, like all throughout the 80s and like
Right.
into the 90s. They were like, good, you guys are. I'm happy you guys are experiencing this, but like they said, they're like, this was like an everyday, week to week, month to month thing around town here. So hopefully we're getting back to that.
Yes, just hopefully the team takes it week by week, and I'm glad that Dan Quinn actually had like a mental day today, because I could understand how coming into this after a game like that where you're not entirely in it, and so that kind of pulls you back in. But they're going to have a lot to work to do tomorrow and Friday, and gearing up for the Giants because they're no slouch, man. You can't take them lightly. Divisional games never go the way you think they are, and so that's what we got to go into it saying week by week and working your butt off for it. Now, the next question by the Colonel is, please give me a few predictions on Commanders' Pro Bowl selections this year. I'll lead off by stating the obvious: JD and Scary Terry. Who else?
Yeah, I'll go to the defensive side of the ball. I'll say Frankie Louvu is
Yeah.
gonna probably get a Pro Bowl nod. Obviously, not obviously, but I would probably say Bobby Wagner will get a Pro Bowl nod. And trying to think of one more person on defense. I'll flip to the other side of the ball. I'll say Sam or Tyler Biotish will probably get a Pro Bowl nod because I still don't think he's gave up a pressure, which is like crazy. 8 weeks, 9 weeks into the season.
Him and Cosme,
Yeah,
both playing really well. Allegretti, having a limp, something with his ankle or hamstring at the end of the game,
yeah. I seen that
continuing to
man like
block.
hopping around, hobbling around, hugging people after the game.
That's my man right there. That's exactly what you want to have offensive linemen. But in my honest opinion, I think the guys you named were absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. I believe that Austin Seibert deserves
That's a good one. Yeah.
consideration for it. Tress Way for holder of the year, without a doubt. Pro Bowl
I
holder
think
that
because
year.
Cyber gets in, he gets in too.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy Reeves on top of that. Jeremy Reeves, the All Pro Revo. I think he deserves it. Just the way that special teams is playing, and obviously how they've added the linebacker from Seattle. Oh my goodness, I can't think of his name right
The
now.
white dude, I forget his name, but yeah.
Ballin', absolutely ballin'. Them two together, they are honest. Like you feel that energy when they're on that special teams. Like that's all that matters to them. It's just making sure they're making a play on the ball carrier, and you're feeling that. And so, but also, I'll go back to the offense. I think Brian Robinson, 6 touchdowns
Yeah.
on the
Oh
year.
yeah. It's a good one too.
Yeah, he definitely. Hopefully, if we continue this trend of running the football sustainably and effectively, especially getting those touchdowns and those points, I think he obviously deserves it. Thank you, Colonel. That was a fantastic one. Now, the next question we have is submitted in the Discord. And let's go to our boys. Actually, you know what? Let me list this one off because Hefe, Jeff Miles, the artist, he had a statement for the pod. So I want to get your opinion on it. He said, I just want to say I'm so happy we're getting some respect around the league. But some people waiting till we're winning to say those black unis go hard are annoying AF. All we have heard since they came out was that's ugly or Steelers 2.0, but now they want to glaze. Ah, well, glaze on. Just know they were fire then and they're fire now.
I love the word glaze. It's so funny. Well, like we've said from the get go, like we've said many, many times on this podcast, like many of us said on Twitter, getting in arguments with people about the name and this and that, and complaining. Winning will make you love a lot of things. Winning cures a lot of things. I've always been a fan of the black uniforms. We've been talking about black uniforms forever, so I know you're a fan of them. But again, people associated, oh, the Bears lost last year and this and that and whatever bad stuff came with all of the stuff in the past. It's hard for people to, and I get it, disassociate the past 20 plus 30 years, whatever it's been, to this new era of stuff because anything from the past is legitly not the same now, except for the burgundy and gold and the stadium they're playing in, even though it's a new name. So I get it, but look, let the bandwagon, there's a couple seats left on the bandwagon. It's fine. Let them keep glazing. It's all good. The real ones know that have been there from the get go about the black uniforms.
I can't tell you how much the Colonel dislikes the black uniforms
You
and how much they look like the
know
Steelers
what's funny
uniforms.
about that? You know who like most of the people that hate the black uniforms? It's the older fans of the older generation of fans that watch them win in burgundy and gold. They can't fathom them not winning in burgundy and gold. So it just like irks them, I guess. I don't know.
I get it. I
I
understand
get
it.
it too. Hey.
It is very similar, especially given the fact that the Steelers like helmet only has one decal on one side.
You know
Our
how irked
helmet
people
only
would be if
has
we
like
wore
the
like our
W.
black jerseys against the Steelers.
That would be crazy. But like our helmet only has the little W on the front, so it almost looks similarly, right? I would say that from the get go, I have said that the black unis are missing some burgundy in them to the point where you could kind of just that little extra accent, maybe around the letters, or numbers, or whatever have you. But ultimately, I do think what would really change the conversation is if the burgundy helmet had some sort of adaptability with black in it, like around the W or something. And having that burgundy helmet with the black uniform with a little bit burgundy put into it would help fix that issue of the correlation between the Steelers. That's my only point. Essentially, the black uniforms aren't bad. It's just the helmet mixed with everything because of the lack of burgundy is what makes people flip out. But look,
Even if you add the burgundy in, people will still complain. Oh, it looks like Florida State. Man, like there's always going to be people that complain.
Florida
So
State sucks. Nobody cares about
that's
Florida. I know,
I'm
except for
just saying.
Rigo Chip. I'm sorry, man. I know that's your team, but I'm just saying. Nobody.
But I'm just saying that there's a subset of people out there that even if they added, which I do agree, they do need to add a little bit more burgundy in there to offset all the black that's in there. But again, I love the jerseys, but you add some more burgundy in there, make them better than what they already are, or whatever. Then there's going to be, oh, they look like Florida State. Man, this is not the burgundy and gold that I grew up on. Ah.
Man, people have way too much time on their hands, man. I'm gonna say I don't. It's just a uniform. All right? As long as I get to see a team ball. But I've always
Well,
wanted those
guess what?
black
Like I
jerseys.
said,
You know,
winning cures a lot of things and makes people love a lot of things.
it does. You're absolutely right. Now the next question was submitted by Arch. Who should Jaden get trophy case advice from? Ovechkin, Magic, or Mitch Rails? Mitch does own a museum. Not only does he own the museum, my brother, he lives on it.
Yeah. Shout out to you for this hoodie, by the way, Arch.
The 50, yeah, that I
Yeah.
was wearing mine for that game.
um, I would say, you know what? Jaden's a smart guy. Get input from all three of them because why not? There's some smart champions, there's some smart businessmen. Just get input from all three and build the best trophy case of them all.
I'll give two answers, and they were actually at the game on Sunday. I think Cal Ripken is a fantastic person to get some trophy case advice from. I'm sure that he has some awesome stuff back there.
From Magic.
Very humble human being. But also Dale Earnhardt Jr. Obviously, he lost his father, who had some trophies, and I'm sure that his dad's trophies are in a very nice case that he has decked out for him. So, but I would say that none of those options are bad. But my number one option is Michael Jordan. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not settling for one. We don't want just two. We're doing the LeBron James bit here. For his entirety of his career, we want to stack them. All right, and
Yes, sir.
let's get some advice from Michael in that sense. Look, obviously, Magic is very cool guy. But
Entice
Michael,
him with a free round of golf in Congressional. He'll be down here in a minute.
nah, my man, he went to that other one. I told you I met him. I got a cigar. What's up, player? Now the next question we have is Tim Towner. Who do we have? Who do we have that you would trade, and what do you think you could get for them? A wise man once said, "One man's trash is another man's treasure."
Who would I trade that? I
I've
guess would
seen
be
the
trade.
floating of Derek
I
Forrest,
was
which
gonna
I would
say like
hate.
the only thing I could think of would be Derek Forrest because he's a name that's been floated out there, and you'd probably get maybe like a conditional like sixth or some low level pick for him. But honestly, I don't really see anybody that I would like trade off because majority of the pieces that we have right now that are getting playing time, we're gonna need them going down the stretch. And then the guys that are like the depth pieces, we kind of need them just in case. But I would say the one position that's kind of log jammed, that's been log jammed,
The safety.
obviously, is the safety position. So it's kind of like a numbers odd man out game. So I would just probably say Derek Forrest.
Tim has hypothetically put it in the Discord before about trading away Austin Eckler at this point because of how well Jeremy McNichols has been playing. But to your point about possibly the depth needing him, I don't think that we are in a selling kind of mode right now. I think we're much more so in buying. I know
Yep.
Freddie Ham, friend of ours, gone to a bunch of games with, and he put out that he got a text from somebody saying that something is cooking in regards to a trade with Washington. I don't know what that could entail. I'm not cool enough to receive a text like that, which is okay. I would
They've
rather
also been like super
ign-
tight-lipped about everything lately.
ignorance is bliss, bro. I enjoy the hell out of it. I don't need it, but I'm
I
just
like to be
saying.
surprised. You know what I'm saying?
I know. So that's where I'm kind of thinking like I'm not really sure what they could do in order of getting because I think that we what we have here, the island of misfit toys, is perfect for what we have, and it's everything is working. You don't really want to blow that up and by letting guys go, especially somebody like Austin Eckler, who obviously is pivotal in that locker room. Now, the
Yeah.
next question we have is from Deluxe. People talk about litmus tests or measuring stick games. This is the first opponent this team has seen twice. What growth do you expect to see on offense and defense from week 2 to now?
Um, I just would like to see just more dominance. Honestly, like I feel like I mean we didn't punt in that game, so the offense was clearly moving the ball up and down the field. They were just shooting themselves in the foot. So I guess the growth I would like to see, and it goes back to even last week. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. A penalty, or I'm not going to say penalty free because it's hard to go penalty free for an entire game, but definitely less penalties on, and I would say less penalties on almost game changing type of plays, like where you get a touchdown called back or you get a illegal man downfield in like a 20, 30 yard, I think it was the Yami play where Cosme was downfield or something. It was one of them plays where Cosme was downfield.
No, that was the touchdown to Alamadi
To
Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus, okay, yeah, yeah.
But
So
and if you go back to it, bro, he's barely off the line of scrimmage.
I know, but he did go up like two something yards and he
It
tried to
was it
jump
was like a
back.
yard, bro.
Yeah.
His
They got
leg
that
was
little,
like on the
they
damn
showed that
line.
little gray area. His foot was definitely still in there, and I think the rule is you got to be all the way out of the gray area.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
he tried to jump back. So I mean, honestly, if we're being real, the referees in that game were kind of like, man, a lot of calls, and a lot of plays, but it is what it is. We got the dub. But I would just say, kind of like in week 2, where we played the Giants, ironically, where they kicked a lot of field goals, they kept shooting themselves in the foot in the red zone. They came out in week 3 against Arizona, smoked them. So I want to see the growth of do what you did against, like kind of like last week. Got down to scoring position, shot yourself in the foot on defense and on offense on a lot of plays that could have been game changing plays. Clean that up, go out and put in the work against the Giants, and don't even give them a glimmer of hope.
What growth do I expect to see from week 2 to now? I've said it so many times that after that 2 minute drive to end the Giants game really turned the knob for I think for Jaden Daniels and his way of passing the football and his confidence in doing so. And so I think in this game, the passing game is going to be much more prevalent than it was in week 2. Obviously, you need to run the football well against this defense. It's one of the things that we have to do. But I also think that Jaden is a different quarterback in the sense where he's dealing right now and doing a damn good job at it. John Wick himself. But the other growth is the mesh concepts that was destroying us in week 2 with on defense for us, where they were able to use Malik Neighbors crossing the field to be able to get those. It seems like we have done a better job of nullifying those types of plays, and so I certainly believe that that's going to be something that we are growing from and not going to be as prevalent in this game. It seemed like any third down, they kind of went to that sort of concept that were able to pick it up on us. And so I think that in this game, the third downs are going to be much better off for us. And I think that over this time, the defense, they've really found the mixture of what they want to use on certain downs. So I think the pressure is going to be much more immense than it was in the first matchup. What were you
Yeah,
going to say?
and to your point, that's a good point. I think Scott Abraham asked Mikey Sammer still about like kind of like what they did in week 2 or like the growth or whatever. Kind of, I'm paraphrasing whatever, but he basically said the same thing you said of we know what we weren't good at, or we know what we're not. We know what we're good at now and what we're not as good at, and it's just kind of like putting ourselves into the positions to be in the position to make those plays on the stuff that we're good at, and we kind of know like communications better now and whatnot, stuff like that. But like I said, I'm paraphrasing what Mikey Sammer still said. He said it a lot more smarter than I said it, but he's basically like in the beginning stages, like week two, beginning of the season, we were still trying to figure things out. We were kind of all like not really confused, but we were still trying to figure each other out. And now we kind of know each other more, and we know what we're good at. We know what guys are kind of like thinking before and pre snap and post snap. So it's going to be a lot easier to like cover guys on like those mesh routes and concepts and whatnot.
I love Mikey so much. He just gets it. I've said this before, but like when I in high school ball, I played for Clarksburg, which was brand new. So we were the junior class. We were the highest ranking class. There was no senior class when the school opened, and so that football that year, it was a mixture of just people that shouldn't have been playing football and people that had possible all-state defensive tackle, and Rob Osborne was on, and we had some damn good athletes as well. But I correlate it and I compare it to this team in that sense where you have one off season, the build up for it, and you have an idea of where guys should fit and what they should do. And so it takes a couple games to kind of get into the rhythm of finding like that glove, like you try to put a glove in the oven, you try to make sure that it's bendable and all that other stuff. It takes time to be able to do that. And that's what's happening with this team now is back in week two, they were much more so or that stiff glove where now they're much more flexible, especially on defense and honestly on offense as well. So they like to Mikey's point, it definitely is that case now where they know where they want to be, they know what they want to do, they know that what teams are going to try to do in certain situations.
Basically, yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
they
much
like, they know how teams want to attack them,
right.
and they know how to counterattack that now, as opposed to like in the beginning of the season. Like I said, they were still trying to figure out who was doing what, who
Yeah.
was best fit, like with what and whatnot. So
Very good. Bravo, sir. Bravo. The next question, last question before we do our predictions, brother. This one was submitted by Tim Towner. Trade deadline is coming up, and Dallas is headed to the basement. What odds do you give that Parsons gets dealt? And if he is, what would it take?
0.00000, as many zeros as you can think of. 1% chance that he gets dealt. If they were a smart organization and they were looking at the bigger picture, you would be like, hey, who's our best asset that's going to command the most money coming up? Michael Parsons. Let's trade him for a king's ransom. Put way more better pieces on our defense and our offense around Dak and CeeDee Lamb. Get a way better running game. Restock our defensive and offensive line, and have a whole better team overall, as opposed to paying three guys like 60+% of your salary cap. But they're not a very smart organization when it comes to like football on the field stuff. Well, they are. I can't even say that because they've been pretty good over the past couple of years. But
Dan Quinn and Joe Witt made them look very good.
yeah, I would say Jerry Jones is not worried about the bigger picture. He's worried about the now, and he's worried about the marketing side of things, the money side of things, the business side of things, more than I would say the football side of things.
Parsons sells a lot of jerseys.
Parsons sells a lot of jerseys, a lot of tickets. He's basically the face of your franchise outside of Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. He's one of those guys, face of your franchise guys. And he would legitimately have people trying to riot outside of their facility in Dallas if he traded Michael Parsons, even though it would be the smart thing to do. So I'd say a 0.00001% chance. But what would it take? I would say this: Jerry's a kind of a good businessman, so he'd probably get a sweet deal. I'd say he'd get definitely a one, probably a future one, and I don't know, probably some sweeteners in between there as well. But definitely two ones at a minimum.
Well, it depends on who they would be sending him to. I do
Well,
think
I'm gonna assume he's probably saying us because he loves Dan Quinn so much. So like that would be like the correlation of there. But
and that's my whole thought process here is obviously I do think it's higher than 0.00 or whatever, but I will say that if anything it would be that Micah has to make a decision for himself as a free agent in the sense for him to be able to come here.
he
I don't
can't even do that because they have so much control over him for the next X amount of years.
well,
So
I
it's like,
understand. I'm just saying.
yeah,
You know what I mean. I'm pretty sure after this year, isn't he?
he
They could do the
can
fifth year option. You're right.
they
You're
can
right.
pick up his fifth year option.
Um,
They pretty much got to pay him after this
yeah,
season.
and I don't know how their money's looking. They can't be doing all too well at this
That's why
point.
they didn't. That's why they didn't sign Derrick Henry, Diggs,
Right.
any of these guys that people wanted them to sign. It's because Jerry knew he had to pay CD, Dak, and Micah coming up after
And to
this
your
season.
point, if they were smart, they would unload that for draft capital in order to get that. Now, would Peters and company willingly do it? Not 100% sure about that. I don't know. I'm not in the building. That would be cool, but I just think that it is a little bit higher, just because maybe there is some team that's willing to do that and make that trade happen. I'm not sure if it would be us, especially given the fact of where our draft pick would be. Is it that asinine to trade away a bottom 20 pick for one of the best edge rushers in the league? No, I don't think it's that stupid of an idea. But I just think it. I don't think that Jerry's world would be down for it. You know what I mean? It's not like Micah has a horse in the race. It's not like he can decide who's going to be
Right.
traded to, right?
Exactly.
Man, that's my whole point.
He can't even really be like, oh, I'm a hold out or do this, like, because the way it's set up now, he's going to lose money instead of getting that big contract, and you got to eventually play to accrue the year and all the little like small details that go into it. Like, he's basically going to be a cowboy for at minimum the next like 2 to 3 years. There's nothing he can really do about it.
Dude, he gushes about Jaden Daniels. It is
He could say
sucks.
he's Glazes Dan Quinn, right?
That's my man. Now let's do our predictions for this game, man. Let's rip some of these stats off. Okay, let's start with New York first before we get into our predictions. In red zone conversion rate, New York's offense is last in the league. In points per game, they're 31st. In passing yards, they're 23rd. In rushing yards, they're 24th. Third down percentage, they're 25th. In sacks, they're 30th. On defense, they're 5th in red zone conversion rate, 14th in points per game, 8th in passing yards, 27th in rushing yards, 7th on third down conversion percentage, and 1st in sacks. Washington, offensively in the red zone, they're 24th. 3rd in points per game, 9th in passing yards, 3rd in rushing yards, 4th in third down conversions, 11th in sacks. On defense in red zone, we're 29th. Points per game were 10th. Passing yards were 6th. And rushing yards are 25th. Third down percentage were 23rd. And sacks, we are 10th. So with that being said, I also want to put this in there. Overall, defensively, the Giants have 1 interception on the year and 7 forced fumbles. Washington has 3 interceptions and 8 forced fumbles. So, what's your prediction?
My prediction is, I know that I've been saying that I expect them kind of like the Giants week 2 where they had the penalty, shot themselves in the foot. They came out in week 3 against Arizona, played a pretty dominant, well, not even pretty dominant. They played a dominant game, pretty clean game as far as penalties and whatnot goes. And it was just total domination. I do think that they'll come out, play a cleaner game. It'll be kind of the same type of dominance they've had on offense for the most part for the past couple of weeks. They'll be able to move the ball up and down the field like they've been doing. The big plays will be there as well. But I don't think it's going to be like the total full dominance of like when they played Arizona because it's a divisional game. These two, for whatever reason, no matter how bad they are, good they are, bad we are, good we are, no matter how much our roster is better than theirs year in and year out, somehow, some way, we always play down to their level or they play up to our level. So I do think it's going to be a tough game because it's a division game. But I do think it's going to be one of those games where, kind of like the Chicago game, where we just pretty much dominated them for 3+ quarters. It's just we kept them around. I don't think that'll be the case this week. I think that we'll dominate them enough to pull away from them at some point in the game, and then we won't be close towards the end. So I'll go Washington 28, and no, I'll go Washington 30, and I'll go New York 17 with it being close, like I said, and then early third, mid third quarter, we hit the gas and pull away on them.
That's a very good prediction. Get out your brooms, ladies and gentlemen.
Sweep them up.
I'm not going to say dominate because divisional games never go the way that they do. But one thing I am confident in is this team's going to fight to the last second, obviously. Have felt that way for weeks, and I do think this is going to be a very good game. Do I expect that the Giants are going to be able to come out and really stifle us and overwhelm us to any extent? No, but I do feel like they have opened the door to those kind of mental mistakes. But overall, I think Washington is going to pull this out. I like the total that you do give out. The big question is, can we get the run game going? And ultimately, I do feel like that is going to be possible in this game. It's going to be hard to do it with those big boys up front that they do have. But I'm confident in this offensive line, this offense altogether, that they're going to be able to get it done. And so ultimately, I will say Washington wins 31 to 30. I keep coming up with that. 31 to 10. How about that?
Who
31
you
to
think
10.
who's like the MVP or the unsung hero of the game?
For me, I think
Kind of
it's
like last week where I was like, oh, I think this is the Johnny Newton coming out party. Like, who do you think's going to be this week?
I think it's Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler
All right, I like that. I like
because
that. They got
going
banged
against
up tackles.
yeah, and like they're really playing that screen that
You know
what's
who they
his
could use? A guy like Bobby Johnson. It's crazy.
OJ Bobby Johnson. That screen that our boy Johnny McClain Newton, the disruptor, that he got that on. That defensive end, I couldn't exactly see. Drops into that zone and is literally there trying to knock down that screen pass, forcing
I
Caleb to
think that
come
was
down.
Cleveland Farrell.
It was such a beautifully done play by him, and like that kind of because the screen game early on, to Arch's question before about where can we see growth, they have done a great job at helping with screens, man. Obviously, they
Yeah.
do get some screens on them here and there, but dude, they have done a lot better than it was early on. So we need to continue that kind of mental aptitude, the awareness of those screens, because Farrell and those guys, they're playing really well against those screens. Frankie Louvu himself is doing a fantastic job at it. So continue to work hard and continue to do it. Washington wins. I already said my prediction, but I'm already getting ahead of myself. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle. We will see you guys again on Sunday evening. If you've been wondering where Reed is, he will be back sometime. We're not 100% sure. But he's just got some stuff going on. And so just don't worry. Everything is all gravy, man. He knows we love him. We miss the fat boy.
Yeah.
We would love to have him on here again. It's just it's hard for him at the moment. So just bear with us. Everything is cool.
But he will be
Everything's great.
back.
He will be back sometime, maybe in the next year or so. I'm not 100% sure. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle. We'll see you guys again on Sunday.
Hall.
All right, everybody. Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.